You ever sit there staring at your paycheck and think, this should feel different? Like you log into your payroll portal, you see that number, $3,000, $4,000 hitting your account every 2 weeks, and for a second you feel kind of proud. Your coworkers assume you're doing well. Your parents tell people, yeah, my kid's doing great, makes over 6 figures now. And then, like clockwork, rent hits. The car payment disappears. The student loan autopay goes through. Your phone bill, your insurance, your credit card minimums, and suddenly that big impressive salary has basically evaporated. It's Thursday, you got paid on Friday, and you're already doing math in your head at the grocery store. You're putting stuff back. You're wondering if you can push the utility bill one more week without getting a late fee. Again. And the really annoying part is this little voice in your head that keeps saying, but I make $100,000 a year. Why do I still feel broke? If that feels a little too familiar, you're not alone. And honestly, that exact feeling is what I think about way more than is probably healthy. My name is Alex, and I spend way too much time trying to understand why people can hit that magic 6-figure number and still feel like they're one bad month away from everything falling apart. If you've ever looked at your income and thought, we make too much money to be this stressed, do me a favor, stick around. And if by the end of this video you feel like things finally click a little bit, hit that like button and subscribe, because I want you out of this trap, not just a little less anxious inside it. Because there is a trap. It's not just you being bad with money. It's not just stop buying lattes or you need a better budget. There is a specific way the modern economy is set up that makes $100,000 look rich on paper and feel tight in real life. I'm going to call it the $100,000 trap. And once you see how it works, mathematically, psychologically, and socially, you can actually start using that income to buy freedom instead of buying, well, a slightly shinier cage. So let's unpack why a salary that used to be the definition of you've made it now leaves so many people feeling like they're barely hanging on. First, let's just demystify that number. You hear $100,000 and your brain immediately files it under rich. It just does. For most of us, that's way more than what we saw growing up. It's what TV shows told us successful adults make. It's what all those 6-figure job headlines are chasing. But the thing about the number is, it lies to you a little. Let's walk through it in real-life terms. Say you make exactly $100,000 a year. Depending on where you live, after federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare, maybe some benefits, your actual take-home might be around $65,000 to $70,000 a year. Let's be optimistic and call it $70,000. That works out to about $5,833 a month landing in your checking account. Now, if you're watching this, I'm going to guess you don't live in the middle of nowhere. You're probably in or near a city, because that's where the jobs that pay $100,000 tend to be. So your monthly life looks something like this, and tell me if this sounds off. Rent for a decent 1-bedroom or modest 2-bedroom in a reasonably safe area? $2,000. Easily. In some cities, that's conservative. Car payment, insurance, gas, parking if you're unlucky? $700 a month, give or take. Student loans? That could be another $300, $400, $500. Health insurance premiums, co-pays, prescriptions, $300. Groceries? $500 if you're pretty reasonable, more if you're not measuring every banana. Eating out and takeout, coffee, drinks with friends, the stuff that keeps you sane enough to keep doing the job? Let's say $400 to $500. And honestly, that's not crazy at all in a big city. Phone bill, Wi-Fi, streaming services that you barely watch but can't be bothered to cancel. $200. Random life stuff, clothes, gifts, replacing the pan you ruined, the Uber you took because you were too exhausted to take the train, the I deserve this Amazon orders? $400 easy. Add all that up and you're somehow at around $5,300 or $5,500 a month. On a good month. Before your car needs tires. Before your friend has a destination wedding. Before the dentist tells you that you need a root canal. So yeah, you make six figures. But the part you actually get to keep, the part that isn't already spoken for by fixed costs and basic functioning? That might be a few $100, if that. That's the first layer of the trap. The number sounds huge, the lived experience doesn't match. And when those two things don't line up, most people don't think, oh, maybe the economic structure and cost of living have shifted dramatically since this cultural idea of six figures became a thing. They think, I must be doing something wrong. I must suck at money. You don't. You're playing a game where the goalposts moved and nobody told you. Here's the thing a lot of people don't want to hear. $100,000 in 2025 is not what $100,000 was in 1995. Your parents' generation could buy a house for 3 times one income. In a lot of places now, it's like 8, 10, 12 times income. Health insurance was not this financial horror movie. Childcare was not a second rent. You didn't need a smartphone, high-speed internet, a laptop, and 5 different pieces of software just to be employable. The baseline costs of being a normal adult have inflated way faster than most salaries. So when we cling to this old story of 6 figures means you're set, it quietly sets us up to overextend ourselves. Because if 6 figures is rich, then of course you should live like it, right? Of course you should have the nice apartment that proves you're doing well. Of course you should drive something newer than the 2008 Civic with the duct-taped bumper. Of course you should travel a couple times a year. Of course your kids should be in all the activities. You're not broke anymore. You made it. Except you didn't really make it. You just hit a number that no longer guarantees what it used to. And what most people do when they hit that number is they immediately hand it away. They sign leases, they take loans, they subscribe to things, and in a pretty short period of time, that $5,833 a month isn't something they have, it's something they owe. They've built a life that requires $5,833 a month just to stand still. That's the $100,000 trap in one sentence. Let's zoom in on that for a second with a story, because it's easier to see in someone else's life than in your own. Picture someone named Jordan. Jordan starts out making $52,000 straight out of college. Shares a small apartment with roommates, drives a used car, eats a lot of pasta and frozen pizza. Over a few years, Jordan grinds. Gets a promotion. A raise. Another promotion. Eventually lands a job at $100,000. First thought isn't, how can I build a ton of margin into my life and buy back my freedom? It's, finally, I can breathe. I can stop living like a broke college kid. So, naturally, things upgrade. Jordan moves out of the shared place into a one-bedroom for $2,200. I deserve my own space. The old Honda is unreliable and embarrassing, so Jordan finances a $30,000 car at $550 a month. At my income level, that seems reasonable. The extra income makes eating out feel like less of a sin. Groceries go from $250 to $450 because Whole Foods suddenly feels more appropriate. 3 streaming services, the better phone plan, nicer clothes for work. None of these decisions are outrageous. If anything, most of society would say, yeah, that tracks. That's what happens when you level up. The problem is, each decision wasn't just a one-time splurge. It was a commitment. Jordan didn't spend an extra $1,500 once and move on. Jordan added $1,500 of recurring monthly obligations to the budget. Before long, Jordan's life now needs about $5,000 a month just to function. There's no major savings. There's no big cushion. Just the sense that things are nicer now. So when the company hints at layoffs, or the boss starts getting weird with boundaries, or the idea of switching careers pops into Jordan's mind, the math is brutal. Jordan can't just walk away. Jordan can't take a pay cut. Jordan can't take a few months to figure things out. Jordan is trapped by $100,000. And honestly, that story is painfully normal. Underneath all of this is a psychological pattern you've probably felt, even if you didn't have a name for it. First, there's hedonic adaptation, the way our brains get used to upgrades fast. That new apartment with the big windows? Feels amazing for maybe 3 months. Then it's just home. The new car smell? Gone in a few weeks. The expensive coffee habit? Becomes a Tuesday, not a treat. Your happiness spikes. Then settles right back to baseline, but now your costs are permanently higher. Second, there's identity. Once you cross into six-figure territory, even if it's barely, your sense of who you are shifts. You're not struggling anymore. You're a professional. You make good money. You're doing well. And whether you realize it or not, you start consuming in ways that match that story. It's not just, can I afford this? It's, is this what someone like me should have? Should someone making $100,000 have roommates? Should someone making $100,000 drive a 15-year-old Corolla? Should someone making $100,000 say, no, I can't go on that trip, it's not in the budget? On a rational level, maybe the answer is, yeah, actually, that might be the smart move. But on an identity level, it feels like you're failing at adulthood. So you stretch. You say yes. You swipe the card. You reassure yourself that it's okay because you're not poor anymore. And that's exactly how you get golden handcuffs, a life that looks successful enough that you're scared to lose it, and fragile enough that losing it would break you. The other piece that almost no one talks about is how deeply the system is invested in you stretching yourself. When you apply for a mortgage, the bank doesn't ask, how much do you want to sleep at night? They ask, how much can we lend you without technically getting in trouble? They'll look at your $100,000 salary and say, congratulations, you qualify for a $500,000 mortgage. And there's a part of you that thinks, well, if I qualify for it, it must be fine. Even though qualify just means we think you can probably make the payments if absolutely nothing goes wrong. Same with the car dealership. They don't talk about the total price. They talk about the monthly payment. For someone with your income, $650 a month is no big deal, right? Landlords, credit card issuers, subscription services, everybody is calibrating around your top-line number, not around what's actually safe for you. And then there's social pressure. Your coworkers aren't showing you their net worth, they're showing you their vacations and their new kitchen remodel on Instagram. Your friends aren't walking you through their retirement accounts, they're inviting you to expensive bachelor/bachelorette trips and group dinners. It creates this invisible baseline where not keeping up feels like social death. But here's the secret no one posts about. Half those people are quietly terrified. They're making payments they can barely afford, hoping nothing breaks, hoping the bonus comes through, hoping they don't get laid off. You're not the only one lying awake at 3 in the morning wondering how you can make this much and still feel this stuck. So, what do you actually do about it? How do you turn a $100,000 income from a trap into a tool? Because the answer is not, quit your job and go live in a van unless you want to. And it's not, never enjoy anything again either. The answer, in plain English, is margin. Margin is the gap between what you earn and what your life requires. If you make $100,000 and your life costs $99,000, you don't have a high income. You have a very stressful obligation. If you make $100,000 and your life costs $60,000, suddenly you have $40,000 a year of pure flexibility. That's where wealth is built. That's where freedom comes from. Not from the number on your W-2, but from the size of the gap. At 6 figures, the thing that separates the people who quietly get rich from the people who silently stay broke is not income. It's how aggressively they protect that gap. So let's talk about how to actually widen yours. Step 1 is brutal honesty. You have to know, down to the dollar, what your life really costs. Not the version you tell yourself. The real version. Open your statements, go through the last 3 months, and figure out 3 things. 1. How much, after taxes, is actually hitting your account each month? 2. How much is going to fixed costs, Rent or mortgage, car, insurance, minimum debt payments, utilities, subscriptions. 3. How much is going to flexible lifestyle stuff, food, going out, travel, online shopping, random. I deserve this spending? Most people never do this because they're afraid of what they'll see. But if you're in the $100,000 trap, you need to see it. Because once you know your real numbers, you can start to play with them. You might realize your fixed costs alone are swallowing 70 to 80% of your take-home. That means you've left yourself almost no room to move. You're operating with almost no margin for error. Step 2 is deciding what your floor lifestyle is. And this is where people get defensive. They say, "Alex, I worked hard for this. I'm not going back to living like I'm 23. I get that. I'm not saying you need to eat ramen in a basement to be financially responsible. What I'm saying is, pick a version of your life that feels comfortable, safe, and sane, but that doesn't require every dollar you make. Maybe that means a slightly less trendy neighborhood with a $1,700 rent instead of $2,300. A reliable used car that's paid off instead of a financed new one. Saying no to 3 expensive trips a year and doing 1 instead. Cooking at home 4 nights a week instead of 2. Individually, none of those changes feel like a revolution. Together, they can free up $1,000 to $2,000 a month. At your income, that's enormous. Step 3 is giving future you a non-negotiable cut. Right now, most people in the $100,000 trap intend to save and invest. But in practice, they pay everyone else first: landlord, car company, credit card, DoorDash, and then hope something's left over. Spoiler, it usually isn't. Flip that. Decide that from now on, some percentage of your pay, 10%, 20%, whatever you can realistically commit to, is not available for lifestyle. It goes straight to building a real emergency fund, so surprise expenses stop turning into crises. Paying off high-interest debt, so more of your income is actually yours. Investing in simple, boring things like index funds, so your money eventually starts working harder than you do. Don't wait for extra money to do this. Create the extra by shrinking your fixed costs. At $100,000, sending even $1,500 a month to future you is possible if you're intentional. Do that for 10 years and you're not the same person financially. You're someone with options. Step 4 is rethinking what success looks like. This might be the hardest part. Right now, a lot of us have a definition of success that's basically nice things, no visible struggle. As long as it looks good from the outside, it doesn't matter if we're panicking on the inside. That's backwards. Real success, at your income level, is being able to say, if I lost my job, would be okay for 6 months a year. If my boss crossed the line, I could walk out. If I wanted to try something new, a business, a different career, I could take that risk without my life imploding. That's freedom. And it doesn't photograph as well as the expensive vacation. But you feel it every day. You feel it in the way you carry yourself at work. You feel it when you open your banking app. You feel it when your car makes a weird noise and you think, annoying, but I can handle it, instead of, this might ruin me. I want to be really clear about something here, because it's important. If you're in your late 20s, 30s, even 40s, making around $100,000 and feeling behind, you are not some special financial disaster. You're pretty much the norm. You were told, go to college, even if you have to borrow. Move to where the jobs are, even if the rent is insane. Work hard, climb the ladder, hit 6 figures, and things will feel safe. You did that. And the promised safety didn't show up. That's not your fault. That's a broken story. But it is now your responsibility to write a different one. Because here's the hopeful part. If you're making $100,000, you are not stuck in this trap forever. You actually have more leverage than most people to get out, if you're willing to make some choices that might look weird from the outside. The person making $35,000 doesn't have a lot of room to cut. You do. The person making $35,000 can move the needle very fast on investments. You can. The question isn't, can you ever feel secure on $100,000? The question is, are you willing to stop using your whole salary to fund your present-day image and start using a chunk of it to fund your future freedom? If the answer is yes, the path is there. So if you're watching this and you're like, okay, that's me, I'm Jordan, I'm in the $100,000 trap right now, hey Race, what I'd love you to do after this video ends. Don't just nod and go back to scrolling. Take 20 minutes. Seriously, just 20. Open your bank app. Open your credit card. Look at the last full month and ask, what am I actually paying to live this version of my life? Which parts of it genuinely make me happier or healthier? Which parts are just there because I thought they're what someone like me is supposed to have? If you can identify even one big fixed cost that's more about image than about genuine value, you've found a lever. Maybe it takes a few months to pull it. Leases end, cars take time to sell. Habits take time to change. But that's okay. You're not trying to fix this by Friday. You're trying to make sure that 5 years from now, you're not having the exact same panic with a slightly bigger paycheck. A $100,000 salary can absolutely be a trap. But it can also be a launch pad. The difference is not in what your employer pays you. It's in what you decide your life should cost. If this shifted how you see your own situation, if you felt that little, oh, that's what's happening moment, hit the like button so more people in the same spot can find it. And subscribe if you want more deep dives into how money, psychology, and modern life actually interact, not just the surface level tips. You don't have to feel broke forever. You don't have to be the person everyone thinks is doing great while quietly drowning. You've already done the hard part, earning the income. Now it's about using it differently. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.